Can you guess which educational cost rose more than home prices in healthcare? Well, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the cost of textbooks has increased more than 800% since 1978. In comparison, medical service rose 575%, consumer price index rose 250%, and new homes rose just over 300%. Now, the average annual cost for textbooks is about $655, according to data from the National Association of College Stores. And that's down $50 from 4 years ago. And the NACS credits that fall to its efforts to promote used books along with programs that let students rent rather than buy their textbooks. But to put that $655 in perspective, think about this. Even after aid, the average student at a four-year public college would need to spend about $2,900 on books. And certainly that is no chump change. However, the American Enterprise Institute's Mark Perry recently just wrote that he's confident open educational resources made available via the web will eventually topple traditional textbooks, just as Wikipedia killed off the encyclopedia. While in China, the cost of textbooks is usually about a few hundred yuan or under $100, although professional studies such as law require more volumes of textbooks sold at higher prices, the cost still falls far below what American students are expected to shell out for their textbooks. So now let's turn over to Weibo to see what net users are saying about the hefty fees for course material.
It's even more than $655. One textbook is usually around $150, and you need at least 6 textbooks per semester. This adds up to much more. I just went to the bookstore to buy some printing paper. I saw a textbook selling for $100. The secondhand version was selling for $70, and it was $49 if you wanted to rent the book. And this was just a very small textbook, about the thickness of Mao's Little Red Book. Sometimes I wonder if teachers get a commission from the textbook companies. I have heard that in North America, it is the poor students that use iPads in class, while the rich students always carry around the latest textbooks and course materials. If you have read American textbooks, you will know that the textbooks are very thick. The content is very well written. It is worth the price. The textbook sellers are notorious for changing editions. The changes are not obvious. Often they just change the image or use different numbers for graphs and call it a new and updated edition. Professors often require students buy the newest edition so that everyone is literally on the same page. The worst part is that students from previous years can no longer sell their older editions.
It looks like the large number of Chinese students studying in the U.S. means that we have quite a few experts on the cost of textbooks. In fact, Chinese students make up the single largest international student population in the U.S. According to an earlier report from the VOA, the number of undergraduate students from China in the U.S. has doubled in the last 2 years. And economists say the trend is due in large part to a growing middle class in China. For example, in 2012, Los Angeles had one of the largest Chinese populations in the U.S., totaling more than 4,000 students. So now let's take a look at what kind of advice these student experts have to offer on the topic of textbooks.
You can borrow textbooks at the library. You just have to do your homework at the library as well. Actually, there is no need to buy textbooks. You can get all the information you need from classroom PowerPoint presentations. I think we're forgetting about how much the average annual income in America is. $600 is about 20% of the average person's monthly income. If the textbook fees were more than $600 in China, then that's one thing. But in America, it's not that much. And the worst part is, some American parents stop giving their children financial support at the age of 18. These students have to find part-time work to put themselves through school. They have quite a heavy burden.
Most Chinese parents see it as their responsibility to pay for their child's university education. especially in cases where the child decides to study overseas. The burden of tuition is incredibly high. Now, while university acceptance in China is very competitive, the fees are often very affordable. According to foreigncredit.com, the average cost of tuition in China ranges from $400 to $2,200, including room and board. On the higher end of the range, we have private institutions. However, government-run higher education facilities are seen to be of higher quality, not to mention a better deal for your money. Now, the most expensive universities in China are joint ventures run by Chinese and foreign higher education institutions. For example, the University of Nottingham in Ningbo charges its students $9,000 a year. Students, however, graduate with a much coveted foreign degree. And the high prices for these joint venture universities still look like a deal against the high price of tuition in the West. Now, living costs as well as textbook costs in China are still considerably low. And in addition, Chinese students are not charged international student prices like they would be in foreign countries. Tuitions for international students are often 2 or even 3 times more expensive than for local students.